Hey, unnecessary.
Are we talking about the moles that go through our yard? Are those the same ones that dig in our head? I have a mole.
No. Those ones hurt a lot worse when you grab them.
Shane and I avoided a stick the other day that turned out to be a mole hole.
Why?
It was early in the morning, about half dark.
You thought it was like a...
Yeah.
It looked like a stick, like a big stick laying on the ground that he's about to run over.
Oh,
so he went
down.
around it. And then when we came back, he goes, I think that might have been a mole hole or mole trail.
You ever touched a mole?
Legend,
No.
come here.
I tell you what.
No. Oh,
Hey.
Lordy, here we go. This is going to be the freak. I'm going to go get his leash.
A mole? Like, they say they feel... I guess I didn't know what they felt like. I grabbed one time, and they feel like the silkiest velvet you could ever think of. But those suckers, they will bite like no other. And their teeth, if you look up their teeth, they're like that long, and they're not like normal, like flat kind of. They're pretty much like a needle.
They eat like roots and stuff.
I guess, and they're blind completely. I knew that, but
Their claws are,
yeah.
their paws are massive.
Yeah, I went when I was working construction. We dug a hole, and on the side of the hole, I was in the hole. On the side of the hole, freaking mole comes out, and I'm like, well, "That's kind of cool. I kind of want to grab that thing." And they're all like, "Yeah, go ahead. You should see what happens when you grab it." And so I grabbed that sucker. I didn't have any gloves on or anything, and I'm like, "Wow, that feels cool." By the time I could say that felt cool, that sucker made the weirdest noise I ever heard.
Shrill.
Like shrieked and ripped around and grabbed my thumb and bit so freaking hard I chucked him probably 20 yards because I could feel like it literally inserted into my thumb.
I tell you what would be a bit bad.
So don't
Get
grab a mole.
freaking squirrel.
Yeah.
Where they eat those nuts and stuff. You know they're tough.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Those guys in Alabama, when we go down there on that squirrel hunt, Squirrel Master Classic, they reach up in them holes and pull them squirrels out.
Crazy.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. All right. Are we ready to rock and roll? Nick, are you rolling? Oh, we've been rolling. So those of you driving down the road that are rolling along this morning, welcome to the Raised Hunting Podcast. Sorry if you just got a little bit of mole interpretation. So I guess we had to, who knows, maybe someone learned something from
From me being bit by a mole.
from you being bit by a mole.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Hopefully I taught a younger kid out there not to grab one. It looks tempting, I'll give you that.
Most kids are smart enough not to.
Probably. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Shane.
I wonder if a mole and a platypus are related.
They gotta be.
kind of
They're
look
like half
They
and
look
half.
like the same size, but a platypus doesn't have any teeth. So how would we have a big
They say a platypus is a... That didn't sound right.
beak?
There you go. They say a platypus is mixed between like a beaver, a mole, and like a pelican.
What the hell?
It makes sense. Yeah, it does. I guess you could do a duck, but it's bigger than that.
So a duck, and a beaver. I could see those two. But where did you get the mole?
I guess because of their skin or something. I didn't come up with that. I read that somewhere.
Oh Lordy, I apologize, man. You guys are like losing brain cells this morning. So all right, I'm gonna introduce everything, I think. So welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. I'm your host, David Holder. I'm joined today not by Warren and Easton, but by Easton and Shane. You guys have met Shane before. Shane Edwards has been on our podcast before talking some deer and a couple other things, because kind of the guy might know just a little bit about what he's talking about. However, I'm here to interpret because he's a little difficult to understand because he comes from deep south. But some of you bluegrass guys will know who Shane is or know what he sounds like and be able to understand him. But he's got some knowledge on the turkey woods too. So today we're going to be talking. We're going to kind of bring you guys up to speed on where we're at. Oh boy, where are we? 2.5 weeks into the turkey season, I think, something like that. I'm trying to think when youth season started the
14th. So, and we're on today's the 24th, ain't it? So
yep, 2 weeks exactly. 2 weeks, right? Yeah, 2 weeks tomorrow. So 2 weeks into the Iowa turkey season, but hopefully some of the things that we can pass on about what's been going on here will be relevant to where you live, and we'll go from there. All right.
I think that's a good tip for you guys. Everybody has a hunting buddy out there, but you should. This is the same thing about if you're trying to make money. I don't know how to make all that much money, but I do know what everybody that makes a lot more money than me tells you to do. And they tell you should surround yourself by other people that are much more successful than you or have a lot of experience. Your hunting buddies are all great, but you should find some hunting buddies that are very successful at hunting. We try to do this podcast because we try to help everybody. But at the same time, we don't get to talk to everybody. So ours is Shane. We've got a bunch of them. But having another hunter that is somewhere in your area that is doing similar things or has other ideas, I think we've bounced a lot of things off of Shane. So I'm just saying, we got a lot of value here, but you guys should try to find one too, because you'll learn a lot from doing your stuff and their stuff. Deer hunting, turkey hunting, whatever it is.
Or you could just have Raised Hunting as the podcast, and we would be your hunting buddy.
Well, we're trying to be their hunting buddy, but I'm talking about the one you could text or call or something.
We're going to get a T-shirt made. Raised Hunting Podcast, your hunting buddy.
Just so you know, your dog is going to chew straight through that leash.
I can feel it. So I'll go ahead and apologize. Normally I apologize for my boy's behavior. Today I'm going to apologize for the puppy that is behind me that is on the podcast. Typically we don't have him, but we do this morning. And as per a puppy, he's gnawing on everything. He's into everything. So if you hear us get distracted for a second, it's because we're having to grapple with the dog. All right, Easton, we don't have, did you check out any reviews or anything like that to take over Warren's spot? Warren is on a honeymoon vacation in Tennessee. So if anyone's down there in Tennessee and you guys see Raised Hunting's Easton, Warren and Alyssa driving through your town, yes, that's them. They're there fishing. They're going to be trying to catch a smallmouth bass. Did they catch any yesterday? I didn't see any pictures.
I have no idea. I don't think they've caught anything all week. What was our last one, Nick? Okay, here it is. Let's take a gander.
The genie.
This is YouTube. Jeremy Rupsick. Right off. I'm not gonna read comments here because I probably need to try Spotify too. Jeremy Rupsick. It's just our giving Nick crap. That's per usual. James Mass 9060. I feel bad for the people just listening because the intro had me rolling. Oh boy, he was probably watching the last one. That's probably pretty true. William Ayers, SPT or SP4TT. Another great episode, guys. Thank you, sir. Bucky Doe Downer, 9040. Holy bleep, Warren. Last week, Warren dressed as a genie, in case you didn't know. Trevor Ram, 1927. When are you guys going to come to PA and show us how it's done? I'm curious to see how y'all's tactics translate from Midwest to Pennsylvania, turkey, and deer, especially deer. Hit me up. I got you. I'll be your PA Woods ambassador. First to the
on the way.
Eric Robards, first to
there
the party.
There we go. Let's go.
I'm not going to lie to you, though, Trevor. This is something that we would like to do because I've had quite a few people. Weirdly, you guys don't seem like you're like challenging us. You want to see how we change or how we do things differently. Because I've had a couple people, they're like, you should just come to this state and try it because some of the stuff works, but it's totally different. Pennsylvania is at the top of that, although no offense, have no care in the world for the caliber of deer, but I have a care in the world for the challenge you guys say that it is, and it sounds like. So maybe one day, I would not be surprised if in the next year or two, one of us hops on over there. Warren almost did it last year.
They're killing some better deer, though, by the way.
It sounds like
like 150-inch kind of deer in some places in PA now.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like they've gone up in size. And that's like Virginia. Virginia is about to be your next state that's got the biggest deer.
Sleeper state.
Yeah. All right, Spotify and Apple, guys, we appreciate it. Please continue to leave reviews. The only thing I will say is all of you guys are commenting, and it's a lot of our main squeezes. Share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with another hunting buddy. You got somebody to ask you a question, send them the podcast. We'd love to help them too. So help us spread the word, gentle folks.
Hey, since we are kind of since we are like way off, the people in podcast land could probably hear that.
I didn't hear anything.
You shit your pants. In case anyone was wondering what that sound was.
Well, now they know.
That was Easton. I would like to read this. Instead of you reading that, I have one that pertains because he sent it in to us. And I think that...
Well, yeah, these guys just sent him to the cloud.
Well, what I'm saying is, but this one is like timely, like it's going on right now.
All right. Like helping?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So anyhow, so this came from Gerald Morris. So I don't know if Gerald listens to the podcast. He doesn't. He mentions the YouTube page and some other stuff like that. So I'm going to read the story today instead of Easton, since Easton was having to do Warren's job because Warren's on vacation. All right. So he says, "Hey guys, I moved to Iowa a few years ago and decided to try and get a turkey with my bow. Hadn't ever tried bow hunting turkey, so I had no idea where to shoot one or how to really set up to harvest one with a bow. I watched David's bow hunting tips on YouTube, from setups to shoot them in the shiny spot. Man, I'm here to say shoot them in the shiny spot puts them down. This morning, first time out with my bow, had 2 toms come in and was able to make a great shot right in the old shiny spot, and game over. I'd like to say thank you for the video tips and content you guys put out. Putting all the tips and info together helped me be successful on this tom. First time turkey bow kill on a tom with 4 beards. Thanks again." And
What are the odds of that?
Yeah, and so he sent some pictures and he sent the video, and he whacked this turkey and it did not go anywhere. We're like 10
What did
feet.
he video it with?
I don't know whether, I'm assuming a camera. I don't think a phone. I think this is truly with a
Do
camera.
you think you just set it next to him or had something attached to his bow?
You can kind of see it there. I don't know how to make it bigger.
Just turn your phone sideways.
If I tried that, it wouldn't do it. He's going to shoot the one to the right there when it starts to walk away. They come in a little closer, and then
We'll have to watch it later.
yeah, it's only a minute long.
Looks like he had just a camera on tripod. Good for him.
Yeah. Nice
Okay.
work. Congrats, Gerald. Really glad that you got that done. Unbelievable to kill 4 beards on your first turkey. Although wasn't it Sean Anthony's daughter, I think, just did that he killed one. Someone killed one in their first turkey, had 5 beards.
I think you showed me a picture of that.
It seems like I've seen several this year, like on Facebook and things like that. Friends in Kentucky, it's killing multiple beards.
Right.
3 and 4.
I had Travis Shuttleworth. He's a good follower of ours. Listens to the podcast and stuff. Send me one that his beard is literally. I need to post it. It's the most insane beard I've ever seen in my life. It's probably the size of your head. How wide it is and big. And then he set it next to a regular beard. In the regular beard, it's like a 10, 11-inch beard, but it's just normal width and everything. Literally looks like it's a freaking Jake's beard compared to this thing. It's unreal. I've never seen one so big in my life.
It's like a horse's tail, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, it was past the paintbrush mark.
All right. Well, where we want to start here?
Well, I think we should start with an update on. We haven't got to do how our turkey season is going here in Iowa, and I'm not going to lie to you. I thought it was just us. But the more I've been on social media, which I try not to spend too much time on, I'm seeing a lot of videos of dudes talking about how terrible their season is going. So,
what are they talking about? Numbers? Are they talking about call-ins?
Most of them are just like frustrated that how's your season going? Because mine is going terrible, and I normally don't see a lot of that going around.
Yeah. Let's bring Shane in right away. Shane, what do you think so far after 2 weeks of turkey hunting season? I mean, do you think it's been somewhat normal or a little odd, a little changed? What do you think?
I think it's been a struggle. We've had good luck, but not every day. I mean, I think it's the weather. I think the cold, windy weather's kind of got them out of their mode. For instance, guys in Kentucky, once again, they're hammering them down there, and they've had good weather, more than the 70s and sunny in the morning, stuff like that. They're doing good, but
It's because we haven't had consistent good weather.
Yeah, I don't know, because it's like even the mornings I think should be good. It's not all that good. It's like it's still got that low pressure feel to it. You know?
Yeah.
Like a humid, stagnant feel. Yeah.
And then when it does hit the high pressure, it's like every bird, like opening morning of the youth season. How many did we hear that morning? I mean, it was a nice. That's probably one of the better mornings I've seen, as far as just turkeys gobbling, things like that. Go out in the evenings. I usually hear 3 or 4, sometimes none now. I mean, if it's always windy and it's just hard to hear them.
I would echo what Shane is saying there. It just seems like this season, for those of you guys that listen have heard me say, because I was scouting my butt off because I got nervous 2-3 weeks before the season started, that there weren't the same amount of birds. I mean, places where I would normally hear lots of turkeys, I might hear one. And that's scary. So I think a big part of where we're hunting at, Shane's not hunting right where we are. We hunt together some, but we are down on numbers. And that we're hoping. So we had the DNR on here a few months ago talking about EHD, and they were talking about a turkey study they're starting. And so we'll hopefully get them back in here and see if we can talk about what we talked to the DNR officer, the warden, and he said, he felt like the numbers were pretty much the same. They might be down slightly, which at the same time I would tell people, our turkeys have moved as well. It's not like, so when I'm saying our numbers are down, they could be on the next farm over, and there's quite a few birds. I'm seeing turkeys in places I never saw them before, and not seeing them where I've seen them for 10, 12 years in a row.
So there's lots too.
Yeah,
like in some of the places
numbers
where you're seeing turkeys in different spots, you're seeing bigger groups or a lot of them spread out and stuff.
Yep.
So were you guys seeing the bigger groups later this year? So in my area, the bigger groups, they didn't break up. Just for instance, that southeast spot we was telling you about, where you guys hunted opening weekend of youth season.
Yeah.
And there's always birds. They're there now. There's 7 or 8 birds right in that area every morning now. Within 300 or 400 yards. Took a friend of mine the other day, and Alan, and we got down there, and there was birds everywhere. And I took another guy named Ryan, and they were within 30 yards off the field, roosted, but they just weren't there early. And so I think they broke up a little bit later this year. Yep.
Yeah, I told Dad, I think it was like right at youth season or something, that my theory on it was, number one, we saw the biggest group we've ever seen in Iowa, like a week before the season, if that. Yep. Like 40, 50 birds or something like that.
Yeah,
lots of strutters and everything. And then since then, have not seen them once anywhere. We'd seen them for like 2 weeks straight or something, where we'd see them in the mornings, and then it wasn't even like you saw them split, like where you see a couple that are still there, or around in the area you see some different groups just flat out gone. And obviously they're there somewhere. But we saw that, and then I told Dad that, weirdly, I was of the theory that our turkeys seemed to be splitting up later, which made me feel like they're, I don't know, what do you call their, it's not the rut, obviously, but
breeding
like
season.
their breeding season
yeah.
or something. Like, we should come up with a term for that. But like, I felt like that was going to be pushed back. Not that it's supposed to be naturally pushed back, but I felt like they're going to be, when they're all fired up, toms are running around, strutting, beating the crap out of each other and stuff, was going to be pushed back because of that. And then for us, I thought that would potentially screw us in Iowa, because now what you're going to end up having happen is your birds aren't going to be split up for opening day, basically, for your youth seasons and stuff. So it's going to be tough to find them. But then when they do split up, now you're going to be starting to slowly educate certain birds in certain areas. And then as new ones come in, they've already been on 7 other farms. They're already been called to and already been hunted and everything. So by the time you're into first week and second week, you now are hunting basically birds that are just now trying to get ramped up, but they've already been hunted enough that you're basically hunting a 4-season bird.
That's right. Yeah,
that is
good point.
not going to play very well. In literally opening day, I think it was 3 years in a row, which this is just being spoiled, but also from the fact of going to find the turkeys. I think opening day for 3 years straight there, I hadn't done it, but I had been a part of a double on opening day. And whether Dad had shot them both, or me and Joey, or whatever it was, and this year was not even close.
Season come in about the same time. It's always the middle, like 14th, 15th, something like that. So
Which is within a few days.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just weather. This cold pressure and all that stuff we've had so much of. Because we had some warm weather first early, and it seemed like it got them fired up. I mean, you were telling me back in February,
yeah,
that you were hearing them gobble good and things like that. But we had a warm February too, because parts of it there. But I think that cold weather just kills it. I think it's just as bad cold weather for turkey hunting as hot weather and windy weather for deer hunting in the rut. How it
shuts them down.
Yep.
We would really like to hear from all you guys, because I want to hear from other states. I do know that there's quite a few people around us that I thought there was going to be one of these things where, I'm still having a great season and this and that. No, I've been talking to all kinds of people that are having.
Our buddy Sean Anthony down in Missouri has had like a stellar, he goes out opening morning of youth season and his daughter kills Tom. I mean, and then I was supposed to go down there. I said, well, hopefully, I'll fill my tags by the time your guys' season comes in. I'll come down. And he's never killed a spring turkey. And so anyhow, I said, I'll come down and help you. But for now, I gave him some tips on where to set his blind and stuff like that, how to set his decoys. And then I haven't filled my tags. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to come. We're going to try to fill our Iowa tags. And he says, okay, well, I'm just going to go opening morning right where my daughter was. Like, perfect. This sounds like, you got, boom, he's done at 6:40 in the morning on opening day, goes back that afternoon, his brother kills one.
That's wild.
Although that we talk about that, we had like here recently, the last 2 or 3 days, we've killed Nick, you, Ryan. We've got 3 right there together, just boom, boom, boom. I mean, it went from like 4 or 5 day periods where I had gobblers walk across the hillside calling to them. They had to be deaf because they just peck, walk through there, never act like they even heard me 50, 60 yards away. Then I had birds come in, a lot of henned up birds. I had that happen a lot. Are you guys seeing that? A lot of hens with gobblers?
Single hens. Like the other day I had 4 toms with 1 hen.
Yeah.
And wherever that 1 hen went, so went those 4 toms. Now they chased some other birds off and stuff like that, but they were not going to leave that 1 hen.
So the southern states must be having better weather for it because Missouri's below us. Kentucky's hammering it. Those guys, my buddies there, everyone just killing fire owl birds. I mean, and then guys I never see on Facebook, they're killing birds. I mean, it's they've had a stellar season from what I can tell.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, the other thing though that we're seeing too is more hunters this year, and that's a good thing. I mean, it don't get me wrong. It's frustrating when they shoot out from under, because when I tell you this statistic.
Have you ever had one shot out from underneath
one?
You?
I can think of one. And I was like 16 or 17 years old. I was hunting a farm, and I was not the only one that had permission there. But anyhow, it wasn't on, same thing. It wasn't on our farm where the guy, but I heard someone calling, and I'm like brand new to this. Like I've just, and so I can hear this bird gobbling, and everything. And I was like, wow, he's going nuts. And I can hear the hen with him. Well, the hen was a person, and then boom. And that is the only time that I can remember when I had a bird. I'm not saying I haven't heard shots in the morning. I'm not talking about that, but like a bird that you could call to or that you were working.
Yeah.
And this year, between Easton and I, we've had 8 toms that have been shot.
Well, eight times. I had a double.
Yeah,
very clearly and distinctly a double.
Yeah, well, but 8 different scenarios where turkeys were killed that we were either calling to or that we were working or whatever. And so Shane and I had just had it happen again the other morning, and we were laughing. But actually, every time you're going, well, that sounds like it could be a person. We knew that was a person.
Oh, yeah.
And we could hear a real hen, but we never heard the tom gobble other than I think we heard him early in the morning. And I think he worked his way into that field. Now, I don't know who it is. They might be listening to the podcast, but they won't know who we are or where we were. But somebody shot yesterday morning 3 times, and I'm just from the way the shots rang out, I'm quite certain that bird's still running.
We had the philosophy that the hens come in, worked around, maybe they saw the hunter or something, they just got impatient and finally took the long shot, and I'm just going to give it a shot, Then decided to follow up 2 more times. Maybe they pulled a triple off. I don't know.
No, mine were so clear. One of them was right off the roost, and you guys are lucky a little bit because you can hear them calling. Mine were I've not heard the hunter at all. Any idea that there's even a hunter there, and I just got a bird somewhere. And the first morning, me and Joey called the one that he's like, man, that bird's pretty fired up. I was like, yeah, he is. He's like the only one that's responding, like going hammering off, and it sure sounded like he was coming. I mean, he's probably 300-400 yards away, but he had gotten closer. I mean, and was gobbling like every few minutes or whatever, and especially if I called, and then. As he's coming in, I call one more time, gobbles, boom, shoots him right there. And then nothing. I'm like, oh boy, well that didn't work. So we went to a different spot. Same morning, I have 2 birds gobbling. They're both hammering off too. And I said, all right, we aren't going to call these suckers or anything yet. We're just going to get up there and get set up, and then we'll throw a call at them. So we get all set up and everything, and they are on the property that I was hunting, or at least it sounded like they were right on the edge of it. And I threw out like 2 calls, and there's three different gobbles, 2 of the ones that I've set up on, and 1 a little ways away. And they gobbled like 1 more time, and then it was boom. I was like, man, that sucks. They just killed at least 1 of them. Boom, which tells me that it was not a follow-up, that they probably shot the one. He probably came back and tried to beat the crap out of that one. They shot the other one too. And so we had no more turkeys to hunt right there. And we left.
Well, I think what we need to talk a little bit about. So Shane, I know you've been hunting, and I know, well, you mentioned these two guys. So Nick behind the camera got to hunt a turkey the other day and killed one. And Easton killed one. And we kind of did the same tactic on your guys. And even though it's not really, I wouldn't consider this late season, it's kind of a late season tactic that we employed there.
You could do it anytime, though, really.
Yeah, you could, but anyhow, I want to pick Shane's brain, see what other tactics he might be trying at this time. But I'll talk about this one. What we did the other day, guys, if you get into a situation where you got pressured birds, you got birds that your neighbors are hunting them, or you have run into them, but they don't leave, they're still there, how do you get that bird to come back in? Especially here's the one that I would tell you, if you're bow hunting them, or even if you're shotgun hunting them, but you're using the ground blind decoy tactic, you're probably going to get away with that one time. They'll come into it once. Once they come into it once, if you don't kill them, or you do kill one out of a group and there's other ones left, they probably are going to avoid that setup again. Not necessarily completely, but not come right into the decoys again. So anyhow, we decided that we were going to, both Easton and Nick had shotgun tags. And so we said, well, we don't necessarily need the blind. So on Easton's, what we did was, and both of these were afternoons, so those of you guys that are capable of hunting afternoons, don't miss them. If you got the opportunity, go hunting in an afternoon. They can be great. There can be frustrating. You're not going to have the gobbling situations that you have in the mornings when they're up on the roost and then they fly down and all that. But you can have some fantastic afternoon hunts. What we did here was, it wasn't intentional that we were going to only blow one call or hit one call, but it worked out that way. And what it was is, we went to an area where we know turkeys like to come back and forth. In Easton's case, I had been there that morning, seen these birds, not gotten a shot at them with my bow, and said, let's go back there. They always come through there in the afternoon, and I call it telking. And
is accurate.
It's turkey elk hunting, because it's a tactic that we use for elk, because elk don't come. So where a turkey will come to a decoy, an elk won't do that. An elk will come to a certain distance and they use their nose and they say, I'm on the scene and I'm looking for you. And so I get a lot of guys going, oh yeah, those elk hung up at 80 yards. They didn't hang up. They just did what they're supposed to do. These turkeys start doing the same kind of thing. They're not necessarily smelling, but they're coming into a certain distance going, okay, I'll gobble from here, I'll strut from here, she'll come over, and then we'll do what we normally do. So what we decided is, well, we're going to give them that, but we're going to put Easton 70 or 80 yards away from me and call the turkey to us. And that way, when it hangs up or he doesn't want to come all the way in, hopefully he's within a shot. Well, Easton and I got there, and it's 5:30, I think, something like that, when we decided we're going to throw one call out here and see it. Because we were in, and the other thing I would tell you is, I like in the afternoons going to like a high knob, not necessarily something they wouldn't come to, but someplace I can hear a pretty good ways or see a pretty good ways. And in this one, we could do both. And we got there, and I said, all right, and I used a slate call. I like my slate call in the afternoons or when I'm doing this tactic, because I'm trying to really reach out. I want a call that reaches a long ways, real sharp.
This is a really good time over the difference between a genuine slate call and a glass pot call, because he's using a glass call.
Yeah.
It's a lot sharper. It's going to make it a lot further. It's going to get through the wind and everything a lot better than a slate call. Slate calls are great. I love them. They're probably my favorite. But they're not going to go. They're just
quite
not
as
as
far
quiet.
as glass.
They're not as loud. Yeah.
Yeah, and the particular one that I use, and Shane and I were talking about yesterday morning, is the Freak. And the Freak is designed so that it can be strapped to your leg, so that you don't have to put your hand underneath it to make the sound chamber. But the big thing, the Freak is main design was that it reaches a higher megahertz. It reaches out. It's almost like a tube pushing the sound out. So I point that call where I want to, and then I hit it, and it works phenomenally. Well, anyhow, Easton and I got there. We hit one call. When I say one call, not like, it was one series of calls, but that was it. Didn't get an answer. It was 65, 70 degrees, sunny. It was nice. Wind wasn't blowing hard. But we both said, you know what? Let's just hold on, give it about 30 minutes and see if we hear a bird gobble, see what goes on. So we just were going to sit down and chill out for a few minutes. It hadn't been maybe 5-7 minutes, maybe 10, because he was trying to get.
I just sat down.
Yeah, you sat down.
Yeah, right when I freaking sat down.
And I'm already sat down, luckily, and I heard a bird gobble. And I was like, okay, dude, we need to employ our Telk method. You need to go down there to that fence and sit against that fence, and I'll call from here. He said, okay. So he takes off and he goes down to the fence. And I mean, we didn't waste any time, and thank God we didn't, because he is no longer sat down there, and he's about 80 yards away from me, and I can see him, and I'm actually filming him as he just, so he's doing what he's doing. And I happen to look over the camera, and I see the turkey is walking in behind Easton, coming right to us.
Oh, yeah.
And so
if you want to be aired out with being a moron of a hunter or having no idea what you're doing, or at least look like you have no idea what you're doing, this video is probably the single video that makes me look the worst as a hunter I've ever seen in my life.
And you're a good hunter. But
I appreciate that, Shane. That's the nicest thing you said to me in a while. Because, oh man, I looked like I had no idea what I was doing. In all fairness, though, I did have no idea.
Yeah, so I can see that I'm facing Easton. I can see the turkey coming. He's probably 100 yards behind Easton, coming through trees though, and the sun gave him away. It was one of those really bright sunny days, and I could see it shining on his back. So I got to get Easton's attention. So I'm going, psst.
I heard that.
Yeah, and finally he hears me, and I'm pointing behind him, and he turns and looks. And that's when I would love to have been there, because his eyes had to have gotten that big, because the turkey is just walking right to him. Well, now he's in an awkward position. Good position if the bird had kept coming the way he was. Easton's left-handed. And for those of you out there in podcast land, you won't be able to see me, but I'm pretending like I'm sitting here left-handed, and the turkey was coming this way.
He was going to come over my right shoulder in front of me.
And so I'm thinking, I better call again. That was the very first thing. As soon as I see a turkey, call at him. And then I was like, no, he's walking to us. Make him come look for us. That'll give Easton a better chance, because and so I didn't do it. I wanted to hit a call so freaking bad, and I didn't do it. So I'm sitting there, and the bird comes to 40 yards behind you to the right?
Probably something like that. It was hard for me to tell, because
when
I'm
said
looking
you saw
back,
three birds.
Yeah, if you've ever been in a situation where you have a deer or turkey or whatever, where you're stuck and you can't really move, but your head is turned as far as you can see. But they're still further to where you can't see them still. So then you're shifting your eyes as hard as you can see. Then you become cross-eyed pretty quick. And so that's all I could see, is I could just see a black shadow over there, and then I'm cross-eyed. So now there's like 3 or 4 of them like bouncing around. I had no idea. I knew he was a ways away, but I eventually just listened, because it was hurting my eyes.
And I'm just watching. I can't hear what's going on, and I don't know what's going on in Easton's head. So I'm filming, and the bird then makes a hard left-hand turn and walks around behind Easton, and I can see that Easton, when he can't move, he's got his head like this, and the bird's walking that way. So
walking behind me.
So I watch the bird walk like 40 yards just sideways, but he turns and he's coming, and he's going to come through the fence, which is what he had to come through that fence for us to be able to legally shoot the turkey. Otherwise, he's on the neighbors. And I see him duck under the fence, but I'm looking at Easton, and I think Easton's still looking over his right shoulder. And so I'm now thinking, now I have to call, because Easton doesn't know the bird has walked into the field, because it looks like to me he's walking up behind him now. And I can't tell. And at the same time, I wait, because the bird is still coming right at me. So for those of you that wonder how well a turkey can figure out where those calls are coming from, this would confirm, and in Nick's situation, we're going to confirm that from 400 yards, 500 yards away, they don't know what ridge you're on. They know what bush you're in. He is flat coming right at me. However, he gets what looks like to me 40 or 50 yards out in the field, and I'm going, I need to let Easton know. Turned out it was only like 20, 25. I just couldn't tell my depth perception from where I was looking. But I slowly started hitting that slate call real soft. And I thought that I was helping Easton. I wasn't having any effect. The bird didn't even check up or anything. He was just still walking right to me. But Easton, fortunately, and this all comes from his mother, is ambidextrous. And for those of you out there, that's a big word like watermelon. So, but what it means is that he can do a lot of things both-handed, like he can shoot a bow right-handed and left-handed. And next thing I know, I see the gun raise up, and it's right-handed now. And boom, Well, what's cool, I was far enough away that I saw the turkey's head flop, and then I heard the shot. Yeah. So I was like, this is crazy. But so we killed a great big tom off of one single call. And on an afternoon after the season has already started to get kind of worn on from other hunters and other farms and stuff like that. So
that bird was 100% coming to look for a hen. He was doing exactly what you would have wanted him to do with a decoy setup or something. But I am of full belief that I don't think you kill that bird with a blind decoys, anything.
Right.
Because he one time attempted to strut for like 2 seconds. And then after that was just no care in the world. Going to mosey on over here. I'm not going to gobble. I'm going to be quiet and just go to where I heard this hen and see if I can find it. And I think there was a bird there that you'd seen that morning that wouldn't come anywhere close to the decoys. And that's the type of turkey I see right there. That
I think it was him. Yeah. I think it was that same turkey.
So do you think they're not gobbling because of pressure or because maybe they've been whipped by another gobbler and just try to get to her without?
It's really hard for me to say because, to be honest with you, I don't feel as though I've really had to deal with, granted I haven't really had to deal with many call-ins in the first place this year, but I don't feel like I've seen very many chicken birds as opposed to just lone birds. Or like there was one morning, or I think it was a morning with Nick and Dad, where there was 100% a tom that was strutting in front of a tom that was strutting with a hen, and he was pushing that bird away, which is typically what your chicken birds do. They hang around and they want to be around other birds, but they ain't gonna get any closer. But it's been like super individual. I don't think this turkey is going to be one that's going to go beat the crap out of other ones, but I also don't think he's the type that's just a chicken bird. So I guess with that answer, I would say probably pressure.
But yeah, it could be.
I think it's more pressure than it is, because I did have a chicken bird the other morning. That same morning that you shot, I had 4 toms together, and there was a tom that came out, and he saw me, meaning he saw my setup, and he avoided me, went all the way around, and then when it got to be those 4 toms that had the one hen, he got within 80 yards of them, or something like that, but he wasn't going in there, and he gobbled and gobbled and gobbled and tried to get that hen to leave, and then they finally went and ran him off. Now he would act like he was going to fight. Like he would hold up if they came to him, but he wasn't going to go to that. If you would have been someone trying to call him in, 100% you'd have said, there's a chicken bird. Yeah. Because he was just holding that distance. I thought one time those guys were going to squeeze him into me because he got between me and the 4 toms, and I thought, okay, maybe they push him and he's more likely to fight with me than he is with those 4. But he just squirted out between the 2 of us and just gobble and gobble and gobble, but would not go close.
If you guys have dealt with it, you two can correct me because I may be wrong here. But in the idea of if you're trying to identify whether your birds are just pressured or they're not wanting to play or they're chicken birds in general, Dad's situation that morning I think would be a really good way for you to analyze it and be able to kind of see what's going on and identify both. And the reason I say that is because I feel as though, and this part you guys might disagree with, I think that when turkeys are together, especially males, like you get a bunch of Jakes or you get a bunch of Toms, they know. And like they have way more confidence when unless you just get a crackhead bird that we talk about that's alone, he's going to go beat up anybody he wants. But a lot of times when you see 2, 3, 4 birds, there's not much they're not going to come into. Yeah. Like they're pretty fired up, especially when you get 4 of them that are strutting versus just 1 strutting and the other 3 are there or something. And so Dad had 4 full mature Toms strutting. And then he had that other one did strut some, didn't he? Yep. And that's bouncing around. That's obviously acting like a chicken bird. I would tell you that I would think that, okay, you have 4 birds that want to play and then you got a chicken bird. But if you watch that video and you watch how they interact, you have 4 birds that are all strutting, acting confident as heck, but will not come any closer than 40 or 50 yards. So that tells me that, yes, you may be dealing with a chicken bird, but at the same time, you have 4 birds right there that should have no reason not to want to be coming in because they have the numbers, they're fired up, they're answering, they're gobbling, everything else. You probably have pressured birds. You probably have birds that have seen something, been hunted, been called to, or are leery about something because I don't know many reasons why you don't have those 4 birds come in.
The only thing that I was hoping for was to get that hen. If I could have got the hen to come to me, I guarantee you they would have broke and come.
Yep.
And the only other thing is that me and Warren had a setup like that very similar several years ago right by my house. And I had brought the Reaper with us. So it wasn't really a Reap, but he got out of the blind behind us and walked that Reaper through the decoys, and those birds saw that, and here they came. I mean, just now granted, we were using a 360, so I got movement on my decoy, and that gets their attention, but it wasn't enough as when he started going to them, they turned and came right at him and cut him off.
I wish I would have been with you, because I would have tried it and you would have told me I was such a moron. But the morning I did it with Joey, I had 2 birds that were strutting and screwing around, and I popped Montana decoy out from behind the blind.
Yeah.
And they would not come in closer than 40 yards for 2 hours straight. Like, would not do anything. And I told Joey, I said, this is either going to scare them and we're going to breakfast, or they're coming in and we're going to shoot them, then go to breakfast. And I put this decoy out behind the blind, and then I said, all right, get ready. And I slowly put it around. I got my hand out the window. The moment those birds saw the second bird, right to the decoys. And I wonder if they would have done the same thing. If it's just...
Well, my whole thing is I didn't have any more hands. I was running
You know what I'm saying?
around.
I wish I was with you.
Yeah, I wish anyone had been with me. I would have tried anything at that point.
Yeah.
I think your breakfast tactic would work right now, because go listen to where they're at, find out what areas they're in so you know where the birds are. They shut up when they hit the ground a lot of times now. A few of them will gobble. See if you can work them. Go get breakfast, come back, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock's the magic time right now, I think, to have that bird alone and looking. If you may not hear 7 or 8 gobbling, but if you get one to gobble, I think you got a really good chance. I learned this early 2000s, and a buddy of mine in Kentucky, really good turkey hunter, William, we worked this bird from daylight to 10 o'clock, and we tried everything. We'd split off, call, we'd done hen fights, and he's a good caller, and we'd done everything we could. Put out the jealousy decoys, the Jake on top of the hen, nothing. But he had a hen with her. We go around the ridge, we get up on this high spot and could see him, and we watch him breed the hen. She leaves. We're 500 yards. We gave up on him. Hit one call, that sucker comes the whole 500 yards to us. We kill him right there up on the ridge. And I learned right there, leave them suckers alone. You're wasting your time. And
unless you're right, that it's hard to kill them off the roost. I think
unless so too.
Unless you happen to be where they either pitch down into your set, or you have the ability to get there. They're going through your path, or they're going to come by you anyways.
Yeah. So 10 to 5 is pretty good timing, I think, right now, is for killing birds. And then it seems like they get back in the same area where the hens roost, and they go back to that area. So then they go back to, like, I know my girls are here. I'm not going to, leave them for you. But sometimes you can call hens in. We've got pretty aggressive hen fights and things like that. Call the hens in, and here comes. And I think it's what happened yesterday when the guys missed.
Yes,
we think they missed. They may have killed, but I think we heard all the hen fighting, and then the gobbler just came in, loafing around with them. That's because he never gobbled close to those guys.
No, not that we heard.
We heard one gobble. We thought he'd cut the distance in half, and we pretty much knew, where the field was that we took. Who was it? Tanner.
Yep.
We took Tanner.
The one in the timber.
In the timber up. Well, not that one, but the one to the east where the horse trailer was.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So we think the bird started there, and he come down the hollow and up to them. We think that's the bird. We're not for sure, because we heard him gobbling, then we heard him gobble again. It sounded like he'd cut it in half, and then never heard another gobble, then heard him fighting and all that, and then boom, 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 But I think that's what's happening, right? I think that's where we're at right now.
Yep. I think I think you're dead on that 10 o'clock thing is. I couldn't stay the other day, but I felt like if I could have waited out those 4 toms, because I did stay. I stayed till probably 10:30. But when they came back through, they still had her, And then she went left, and when she went left, they went with her, and I was like, okay, the only thing you could do is sit here all day, and as soon as she leaves, then they probably come right to you. Now whether they would have come to the decoy at that point because they'd seen it a couple times now, but nothing, like they weren't spooked by it, as opposed to I had a tom that came by, walked out into the pasture when he saw the decoys or the blind or the whole thing, walked away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure that's not the turkey you killed.
Maybe.
I mean, it was in the same vicinity, same area right there, but he didn't come anywhere near.
He's just educated, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, well, here, because I weirdly agree with you, and we always say the 10 o'clock thing and stuff, but what doesn't add up to me is why I mean, I want to go in the morning, number one, because you get an experience.
100%.
And I am not a morning person for anybody that knows.
100%.
Yeah, Shane knows that well. But I like turkey hunting in the morning because I like to hear them on the roost. I like to know exactly where they're at and be able to, if I am going to hunt them later in the morning or whatever, I know I'm not going in blind. But I do have a lot of turkeys that I've called in, especially in recent years, at like 30, 45 minutes after they've hit the ground. So, and I'm trying to think of how many of those have been like a group. Because like last year's when you doubled or almost
2
doubled.
2 years ago. Oh, yeah. Last year I should have doubled. Yes.
That was, it took us a while. They all pitched down probably 150 yards in front of us. They were all screwing around right there. You could see them doing their thing, like kind of breaking up and other toms coming by and stuff. And we got all of them, hens and toms, to come up. But it was like 45 minutes later and we had to work them. But I've had other mornings where, same thing, I've had them come in. Like that same exact field the year before, I had a group of like 3 or 4 toms and multiple hens walking by probably 400 yards away at about the same time, and I was calling to them, and they came right over. So what is do you think just sometimes it works in the morning, or do you think that sometimes you got to have a group to do it? It's an individual thing? Because there is just about everybody's hunting in the morning, and there's a lot of success before 9 o'clock.
So there's nothing better than getting out there before daylight and listening to a gobble. I won't miss that. I can't just I'm not the guy to take off at 9 o'clock unless something happened. I couldn't be there before daylight.
Yeah.
But I think it's just different stages the birds are in. I think they're in a stage right now. It would be hard to do that. I mean, unless you find that one bird that's
based on their season stage, like what they're doing. Okay, not like a stage within the day.
Yeah, because my groups are going from 4 to 5 to 1 and 2 now. I'm seeing a lot of 1 and 2 birds, and that tells me they fought. They're breaking up. They got their group of hens or whatever. But, just throughout the season, I think there's times where 30, 40 minutes after daylight's awesome. I mean, I just don't think it's right now. I mean, that's everything. Well, you all killed both in the evenings. I've personally not hunted yet. I've been with somebody every single time, and I really enjoy that. I'm going to get a 3rd season tag and a 4th season tag. But having that said, I probably, if I go by myself, I'll probably go out there at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll go in early, but I'm really thinking I'll probably kill from 10 to 12 or something like that. That's when I'm going to really.
Right. So what Shane is saying is you're still going to be there first thing in the morning because that's going to tell you everything.
Yes.
That's going to tell you there was one over on that ridge. I heard him.
Locate him.
Yep. And now I ain't heard him for 2 hours, but that's okay because he's still over there probably somewhere in that vicinity. And so I'm not going to just tromp in there, or he's next to that field. So I know I can go set up next to such and such a field. However, don't get lackadaisical when it starts to get up to 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. I agree with Easton. Right. Yeah. I would say that 8 o'clock, maybe it's even 7:30 because I think we're getting.
7:30. I've got a lot of I know I've shot a few at 7:32. Joe shot 1 or 2 at like 7:30, 7:35.
Sure.
And so the bird that I did have come in the other day, so I kind of got to experience a whole bunch of stuff. I got to experience 4 toms together with 1 hen. They're henned up. That basically you have a tough time getting those birds to come away from there.
Unless you can get the hen.
Unless you can get the hen to come. However, then I got the chicken bird showed up, and now he's running around there. But then right before that, I would not call that a crackhead, but I would call it a Sunday stroller, because he came out of nowhere. I didn't hear him gobbling or anything. I just happened to turn around and look, and from 200 yards away across the pasture, I see a bird strut. And immediately, that's the thing that kind of triggers me when I see a turkey, when I see a tom, and if they're either strutting or not strutting, I kind of know whether my decoy setup is going to work or not. And because if they're not strutting or anything like that, decoy setups oftentimes don't work. If they are like, ooh, wait a minute, head color changes and and this bird did it. And then he did it a couple more times. And I moved the decoy and I made a couple calls. And I was like, okay, I got you now, And so here he comes and he walked right in. And for those of you that know, man, I had one heck of a streak going on there for a while. I killed, 22, 25 turkeys with my bow without losing a single one. not so much the case. And the other morning I made a rookie mistake. So this is a huge tip for someone out there. One is I didn't have a cameraman with me. And it was Easter weekend, so Nick had gone home. Easton was hunting somewhere else. And so anyhow, long story short, I'm running the camera and I'm calling and I'm running my decoys and I'm trying to do all this stuff, and this bird comes in and he's 7 yards away. I mean, this, number one, I remember how nervous I was. I mean, like my heart was pounding. I was like, I finally got one to do it. But that's because it had been 5 solid days of not getting a bird to do what I needed him to do. And now he got in there. But he would have given me all the time in the world. And anyhow, long story short, though, I get to full draw. He's coming around to the decoy. He turned his head, which he let me get to full draw. And he almost, if he'd have taken half of a more step, I was going to put it right in his bunghole. But he didn't. And so he kept going around the decoy. Well, instead of letting him come around the decoy, I decided just shoot him right before he goes behind the decoy and shoot him in the shiny spot. And I put the pin there and I let go. When I let go, I felt my bow hit my leg. I had turned, I'm sitting in a chair, and I had not got out of the chair. Typically, I get down on my knees, and I haven't been doing that recently because it's been hard on my back. But anyhow, I'm at full draw. He's right here, but he had walked over to here. And that, for those of you that can't see that, I put my cam of my bow directly over my leg. Bow goes off, hits my leg, arrow dives low, and I took a few feathers off of him, but that was it. That bird did everything that you wanted him to do. I mean,
you also got very lucky on that, just so you know. Anybody else, if you have that happen, you're probably going to be wincing in pain because that does not normally feel good. I have no idea. You can see it very clearly. It hits him in the leg.
Yeah, I had another camera running in the camera.
How it did not hurt, because that is a lot of force.
Yeah, I've had it knock me off my...
The only way I could say is if it was close enough to your leg that it never had, like it only went an inch or something.
I don't know.
But man, I was shocked that I was either looking at Dad like he was a man of steel, or it just didn't hurt. Because I'm like, how did you not react to that at all?
So, but anyhow, so I had a Sunday stroller, I had henned up birds, and I had a chicken bird. And then I just sat there for the next 3 or 4 hours working these turkeys back and forth, and they would come close and they'd leave. But it would just, so my point is, all the time, and I had it somewhere I had to be at 1 o'clock. Otherwise, you just sit there. Because I do still believe if those 4 toms, once that hen was gone, they would have come.
Yeah.
You know, or catching them at the right time.
So you was on a dry streak. You hadn't had a bird in 4 or 5 days, so you're excited. I think it's what those birds you're talking about that come in early. I think they're on the dry streak. They haven't been around hens, and they're desperate to get in there. Maybe they've been, and they don't want to be around that bunch. Because Ryan's bird the other day, we'd called a horse trailer field, had that bird up there again, had him right out in the field. All kinds of birds that morning, busted some off the edge of that field where you all hunted opening day of youth season. They were 3 or 4 gobblers on the edge of it. We walked down there and they flew off. I thought, man, we can't mess nothing else up any worse, So we were coming back down the hill towards, the bottom of the creek, and bird fired up to the east, pretty good ways off, 400 or 500 yards. All I done was a yelp, and he would gobble. I could cut, no gobble, yelp, he'd gobble. I said, Ryan, let's work down to that field. We'll act like we're going down there. We'll call every now and then. We get down, and I said, you think he's moved? He's like, I don't know. I was thinking he was moving, but it was hard to hear it. We're changing. We get down that field, down, that creek, little open field in the bottom around that creek there, north of it. And I call, and he's like 75 yards. I was like, oh my gosh, sit down. So we get set up. I get 30 yards behind him and call. He never gobbles again. Ryan could see him across through the fence, across a ditch. And he didn't know if he crossed or not. And I heard the big like 30, 40 times. And he's up on this little knoll to the left of us. And then I see him come down across, the road that goes back to the fields. There's a secondary road, and I see him cross it, full strut. He drops out. He's walking. I yelp. He comes right down the road, probably 5 or 6 yards from Ryan. And he had let him get out from him so he can shoot, And he hammers him. Awesome hunt, beautiful hunt. But that bird did not want to come to us when we're around all those other birds gobbling, every situation. But once we got in the area where there's no other birds gobbling, come in on a string. I think he probably not. He's probably not been around as many hens as those, or he was with the hen and she went to the nest and he just broke off. They could have been in that situation. I don't know, but he definitely come in like he didn't want to be around a bunch of other turkeys.
Oh, I definitely think it's worth. Sometimes when you get that bird, because you said he was gobbling back to you when you were calling before you guys ever moved.
A little bit.
A
But
little.
when we started, the further we got away from those birds, and that may be a tip, get away from all the birds. If you got one to gobble, then you get away from a bunch of birds and make them gobble. They'll gobble more. Just try to go to an area where there's no turkeys and call from there, because that's basically what happened. I mean, it was 9:30 in the morning when he killed, and he comes straight in.
Well, but
I was thinking that when you get some of those that are answering like that, and you're not going anywhere. I hate to do it because it's scary, but if you give them a little while, like, I don't know, if I was going to do it, I'd probably be giving them 30, 45 minutes before I do it. But then I move up, and if you can get close enough to them, and you're hoping that they're there and that they haven't started, that's what I'm saying we wait 30, 45 minutes because, I mean, that's a while. It feels like a long time too, but you go at 10, 15 minutes, a lot of times you're going to stand up and see that turkey already halfway to you.
Yep.
But you can get closer to them, and it's like once you get in that range, if you get in close enough to them without them knowing or anything, and they did know that there was something calling to them, there's a lot of times that bird comes walking right over.
So we didn't cut the distance any because it was a neighbor. He was on a neighbor and a fence line through there. So he was still 400 yards when we got to the bottom, but once we called down there, he cut it. And I asked him, I said, you think he's moving? He said, maybe. Then we waited about 5 or 10 minutes, called again. That's when he was 75 or 100. So he didn't really move until we got away from all the birds.
But how far had you guys moved? Even though you didn't move closer to him, you moved, what, a couple hundred yards?
At least 400 yards.
Yeah. So there's, to me, that's something I love. And I did it with Nick a couple of years ago. We had a bird gobble, and I knew where he was. And I told Nick, I said, what we're going to try to do is go around, because we wanted to call him in, like just set up and call him in. And so I heard this bird gobble. We drove in the mule all the way around the farm and got to the other side. And we did it pretty quick because I was like, but he had gobbled like multiple times. I wasn't afraid. I was like 10 minutes, he'll still be gobbling. We get out of the mule where we are. We're going to be another 400 or 500 yards away from him still. I hit one call. He gobbles. I'm like, okay. So now I said, now we can walk toward him and not like right at him, but kind of skirting him. And I started calling, man, and I mean, he's like, the moment I hit a call, he is gobbling. And we just kept going like this, going like this, going like this. And then I slowly started to work our way toward him. And when we did, he broke out of that field and started coming. And Nick and I were hiding behind the Reaper as how just in case we were to run into him. And he never even, as soon as he saw it, he never even checked up. I mean, he was coming as hard as he could. Nick shot him at 20 yards. Yep. But so my point is, I think there is as much to something like you're talking about where you get to a place where there's no other turkeys. I also think that sometimes just you moving and calling is something that most people aren't doing. And I'm not talking about call from a setup, move to another setup and sit there for a while. I'm talking about you're calling and you're walking along and you're 50 yards and you hit another call. You got to be careful. You got to make sure you're not in an area where someone might shoot you, even though you just sounded like a hen, but a hen that's moving.
Yeah. It's realistic.
And, yeah, absolutely.
Because you've heard those hens do that.
Absolutely.
When they're moving, they're calling. I mean, every 50 to 100 yards, you'll hear them yelping again. But I love your tactic. Wait and see if that bird, make sure he's not moving, and then try to get in close. And a lot of times that fires them up enough that they're going to come see what's, all right, now he's here. Or they've got hens, and you call, and the hens get jealous, and they walk off, and he goes with them in full strut, and you can't do a whole lot with those birds. You can get aggressive, do some hen calls. I've called the whole flock in like that before.
That's the probably outside of just kind of working each bird is I think everybody focuses way too much on the toms, especially when you have other birds that are there.
Yep.
I could care less if it's just a lone hen either. Like,
I love
bring
calling
her
them
on in.
Yeah,
and most of the time, as long as you don't screw it up as being an idiot, like. That's pretty rare that I've had any hens that come in, interact with the decoys, and go away like they were educated unless they catch us. Most of the time, I've even had them where they just stick around.
Yeah.
Then you got a live decoy walking around. But that's I couldn't tell you. I've had multiple birds that the only reason I killed them was because of calling a hen in. And like for instance, same farm that I killed this year, last year I had 3 toms. Granted, they had like 7 or 8 hens. And 3 of them strutting, saw the decoys and everything, would not come up. Like they're only 20, 30 yards apart, but they're just from us, but they're just off to our left, would not come in. And there was one hen in the bunch that would respond every once in a while. And then I stopped responding to her, and she started like cutting, like aggressively, like almost like she was pissed off at me.
Right.
And so I just told Nick, I said, look, I don't think these toms are going to do it, but I think if I'm just going to mimic everything that hen does. Every time she calls, I'm going to call exactly like her. And I think that if she continues to be that angry or whatever, she's going to come over. And if she comes over, we're killing a bird. And sure enough, probably 15 minutes of literally, I did not do anything other than whatever she did.
Yep.
Identical. And she came walking in and came around at like 30 yards. Those toms popped the hill again, changed heads right to the decoys. Shot him right there.
You got your hands full when you get her mad, because if you want to mimic, because she'll talk a lot.
I told Nick I was tired. I was like, I was using my mouth call to replace my slate call song because I'm like, this is ridiculous.
So when it comes to educating birds, I'm a college professor because I call a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm aggressive, and I'm good with that. I enjoy it because then I'll have to figure out other strategies to kill them, because after about 2 weeks of it, my bird's like, yep, that's Shane over there on the ridge, you know. So, but it's I've learned, though, that they're aggressive, too. They call a lot. When they really get fired up, those hen fights we used to, I thought that's way too much. No. You heard the other morning, we heard a hen fight fire up, and it was just a lot. I mean, it's like, Is that really, they just make a lot of racket, which is good. It's fun.
If you're ever just around them, too, they just milling around, the hens make a lot of noise.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes you got to be
pretty
close to
subtle.
really hear them.
Yep.
Like it's almost constant. Like they're making some kind of noise just about all the time. And so I mean, when you're being excessively loud about it and stuff, I think it's actually pretty hard to overcall if you sound halfway decent. Like you could sound like a terrible sounding turkey and be okay. As long as you sound like a turkey.
There's some terrible sounding hens out there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like
sounds like they've been smoking a pack a day for 10 years. I mean, it's rough. But the overcalling, I think, can be pretty difficult to do.
I'm in Shane boat. There's two things I do, and I'll continue to do it, and that's I call too much and I call too loud.
We both, we're together, we're calling a lot.
Yeah. But then there are times when I just don't. And so I think adding something because I do it for elk, and now we've seen it work on the turkeys. It was probably, for Easton's turkey to show up, I'm going to say 20 to 30 minutes, would you say, from the time I hit that call till that bird was shot.
Yep.
On Nick's, it was over, because I had picked up my call at 20 minutes and said, okay, I'm going to hit another call. And then for whatever reason, the wind was blowing a little bit, so I didn't. And I was like, just hang on. And then I happened to see the bird at 350, 400 yards, something like that. And I was like, I see a turkey. And then I was like, I see a tom. And then he turned and was coming right to us and walked right to us. So my point with that is, how many birds are we walking away from? Where we've been working a turkey or whatever, and I'm not talking about necessarily, maybe not the one you're calling to, but another one that heard it, and then he comes walking by. Shane and I were talking about this yesterday. How many times, you guys that have turkey hunted for any length of time, guarantee you've had this happen. You've been sitting and calling and working on something and bird gobbling or not gobbling or whatever, but you finally gave up on a spot. And you said, I'm going to that next ridge, because then over there, especially if you're hunting national forest or something where you got lots of ground to cover, and you take off and you get over there. That was right where I was just sitting, you know, but it's 25, 30, 40 minutes later, somebody shows up. So there's a tactic to that. Just stay there and do not call. If you're like me, you're going to have to take your call out of your mouth, put it in a pouch, and put it in your pocket, or you're going to hit that call. So anyhow, I mean, and Easton made fun of me because these two guys killed the other day. Like I said, so that's the tactic. And we basically hit one call and just waited on them. And then we went the next afternoon. David's up, but I got to have a blind. I'm hunting with my bow. I have 2 bow tags. And we know these turkeys are down in my food plot, about 250 yards, but it's CRP. We cannot get down there. There's no way. So we set up in my road. I have a road that goes this way, and then it tees in the middle of the CRP. So think of 5-6 foot tall CRP everywhere, and the only place you can see is in the road. And so we set up on one side facing the food plot, and I hit a call, and Easton starts a timer. Well, he doesn't tell me this, but anyhow, I made it 13 minutes.
I was doing it because I was like, this sucker has done it 2 times in a row now, both within probably a minute or two of what it was. I'm like, I'm going to time this, because if this works, I bet it's like 20 to 23 minutes and we're going to have a shot.
Well, I didn't know I didn't know he was timing. So 13 minutes later, I hit another call.
Right.
But the wind was blowing a little harder, and I didn't feel like we were where the turkeys want to go. We were actually literally trying to have to pull them to us.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we're just going to take a little different tactic. So anyhow, I hit another call, nothing. The third time I hit a call, and again,
I also texted you and said that was only 13
yeah,
minutes.
he texted me and said that was only 13 minutes. You
Supposed
didn't
to
make
wait
it 20. So I waited another 15, 20 minutes, and I hit another call. This time, a bird gobbles behind us. But he's 250, 300 yards away. I'm like, well, they heard me, obviously. Well, so then we're sitting there, and now another 30 minutes goes by, and Nick and I are in the blind. Easton's actually filming off the ground across from us. And it's just one of those deals where no more answers. I think I called one more time. Nobody said anything. I actually said something. Nick was talking to me one time, and I was like, dude, you got to be quiet, because in this CRP, they could just walk up here. And then I'm sitting, and I do remember this. Nick asked me, when does the third season start? Is that tomorrow? So I pull my phone out, and I'm on my phone sitting in the blind, and I'm looking at the DNR, and Nick made a sound of something, I think, or I don't know what I picked up on, but I heard and then I look over, and his eyeballs are like this big. And I'm like, what the? Oh, you got to be freaking kidding me. And 5 yards outside of the blind is not a strutter. It's just a big Tom standing there looking around like, okay, where are you guys at? Well, he's that close. I know he sees. I have a call. I have my striker in my hand. I have my phone in my hand. I can't lay my phone down because it's going to hit the ground. He's so close, he's going to hear it. But I try to do something, and he starts walking. I can see another one coming, and at that point, he saw something. He was literally if he was even 5 yards, that would be a long ways.
I never saw him.
Easton's 18 yards away, and he never knows that two turkeys are even there.
The only reason, because we're sitting in CRP,
Yeah.
and I'm the extra camera guy. I'm not about to go freaking sit in the blind and film the same exact angle that everybody else is getting here. Yeah. So I go sit a ways away from him, and I didn't realize, and when he decided he wants to set up in the CRP, I'm like, oh boy, I don't know what I'm going to do here. There ain't nothing. I mean, and so I had to lay on my stomach and I had the camera as low as I could get, but I had to be somewhat close so I wasn't filming through all the grass. But from where we'd heard him, I figured I'm not going to be able to move around and like look around. So I'm just going to commit. I'm going to lay this way so nothing can see me, and they should come up this road because there's not really many other options for them. The only other option there was for them to come up was directly behind me. So I'm sitting there like this. Oh, I was in pain too because my back was like not doing it, and I'm looking for turkeys and everything, and then Dad texts me, says, did you see that? I said, what was it? He says, we just had two toms right here at 5 yards. I'm like, BS, no you did not. And they had to show me the video. I did not believe, because I didn't hear them, didn't see them, nothing. But that was unfortunate, because that would have been some pretty cool video. Maybe next time I'll just face you and not try to keep an eye out.
The whole thing is, I had been just like watching. Right, I don't know if I had seen them coming. I don't know if it would. They were so close, and we didn't have a decoy set up. I don't know if I would have ever gotten to full draw. It was just the nature of what them coming around behind us was the only place that was going to kill us.
Yeah,
So, but anyhow, it worked again. So that was 3 afternoons that we basically did the same thing. So
one more thing I'm doing right now. So I feel like a lot of these toms know my social security number. They know me that well. I mean, like as soon as they gobble,
you tell them that, and
they just figure it out.
Somehow?
They're pretty smart,
Okay. Yeah.
But they know me, and they know I come in the same way. So I'll start switching up, come different way, different calls, whatever. They still know me because I've
You've shown them your whole arsenal. You've told them every call you got.
But one. So then I hear these.
He's got the gobble tube.
I hear them gobble. I won't call to them. I'll get them to gobble. Won't call to them anymore. After I figure out they're sitting still, I'll get close like you were talking about, and I won't yelp or anything like that. I just start clucking and purring real soft, scratching the leaves. That's killed a lot of birds, because now they don't think that's me because that's not my usual.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I know they don't know that's the same guy over there. They just get patterns. I think they pick up on patterns. So I completely changed my pattern up, and I'll get in there close, cluck and purr, scratch around in the leaves. Next thing you know, you'll be sitting there and one will gobble 30, 40 yards from you, about blow your hat off your head, and you kill him. And that's a pretty good time too.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a call still. I mean, you're in the leaves and stuff.
The leaves are deadly. If you're in a place that it can work. It doesn't work very well in Montana and Nebraska, places like that, because it's a different country.
Yeah.
But in the hardwoods of Midwest or East or South, oh boy, it can be super.
Grab your little twig about this long, get you some oak leaves over and just flip them back and forth, 3 at a time. That's what they do. You watch turkeys, it's 1, 2, 3. Look, 1, 2, 3, do the same thing. And
because what's funny, if you really watch turkeys, they scratch and then they back up to feed in it.
Yep.
They then they back up, get a bite.
Yep.
So you get that little cadence down, a little timing down. So, but it's time to get creative, guys, because if you guys are like me and you're still holding on to a tag, don't give up. I mean, there's still, matter of fact, yesterday my hopes kind of climbed because I did see some turkeys yesterday, yesterday afternoon I went back out and scouted a couple spots, and I was like, well, there's a turkey. Well, and then I heard one, and then there's another one. Now, the one thing that Shane mentioned, like seeing broken up, I'm now seeing lots of single hens. Lots, like especially at 5:30, I think they're coming off their nest, going back toward. They'll feed for a little while before they go roost, and so I think I saw like 6 or 7 single hens yesterday. Crossing across the road right in front of me, but I was on top of a hill, and I think I saw 4 or 5 different ones. So it can get tougher, but it also can be very, very good. And you will still run into that turkey that you catch him at the right time, and he'll come to a decoy. He'll come do everything that you need him to do, but it's going to have to be the right setup.
Yeah, when we're talking about these different modes they're in, it's just a majority. It's not all. You'll still have 1 or 2. It's
100%.
Off the grid there. He's doing something different. He's an Easton. He's always doing a little something different than everybody else. But, good at it. But good at it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yep.
Anything else? Are we going to? Do you have time? I don't have one. Maybe Shane brought one with him. A wacky fact.
Oh,
I think we started out with a wacky fact earlier.
what was
I
that?
don't even remember what it was, but it was the moles or something.
What the mole is, but I don't know. That ain't a wacky fact, because it ain't a fact at all. That the platypus is part duck or whatever it was, and that's not a fact.
I didn't say it was. It's kind of like a kangaroo is just a jacked version of a deer that went to prison. It's just a thought, but it makes sense.
Where in the hell did that come from?
You have no idea how many people have messaged me about that and agree.
That a kangaroo is a jacked what?
Is just a jacked deer that just got out of prison. Yeah. Yeah, you put them side by side.
There's a lot of drugs.
It's legit.
There's a lot of drugs rolling around these days.
Tell me if you guys agree or not, because I think you guys have all told me you agree with me.
Oh, Lord.
All right. I don't have a wacky fact. Well, I do have lots of them, but not on point like
that. But we're not ready for them. So, all right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in today. Shane, thank you for joining us. Hopefully next time you talk to Shane and I, me and him will have filled tags, because we're the two that are turkey-less so far. Nick and Easton have done filled at least one. So we'll see what happens. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Raised Hunting Podcast.